Well, happy Friday! And I'm wearing my running t-shirt since it's a relaxed day and it's a long weekend. So today is another talk. I'm going to call this my Friday talk, resurrect my Friday talk, but it's really a continuation of the talks that I've done over the last week or two. I've really taken you on a journey, if you've seen any of those talks, my journey in the geospatial world from my start in the 90s, where I did a graduate degree and started working in WebGIS and that evolution of web technology from desktop to web, and then into the late 2000s, where we started to see mobile devices, the smartphone, the tablets, and where geospatial went mobile. Again, GPS on a mobile device, huge part of the revolution. And I've argued that we're now at the third part of the geospatial revolution, arguably the biggest. It sits on the base of the other two, but this is the bigger one. This is where we're actually talking about Geospatial 2.0, as I would call it. I used to call it 2 or 3 years ago. I'll still call it that. Where we're beginning to see this massive amount of data being collected by the new sensors. That's multi-dimensional data, 2D, 3D, 4D. And we've got AI, which automates things. So we've got this sort of perfect world that's happening. The geospatial industry, and I've spoken quite a lot about the technology per se, and if you follow any of the things I put in LinkedIn, I often kind of talk about LiDAR, and I'll talk about some of the data, some of the technologies that are evolving. But my real focus is actually on the commercial side of things. Even though I'm a technologist, my focus is really on the commercial side. And I think that we're now in a place where, again, Geospatial 2.0, the technology has really advanced rapidly, but the commercial world is slowly catching up. And I've seen it in my work today, and I've seen it in my work historically, where geospatial companies, GIS and remote sensing companies are kind of struggling to grow. They got kind of flat sales, and it's a generalization, but I'm seeing it quite a bit. So historically, we're really talking about two separate industries here. We're talking about the remote sensing world, which I've worked in, and we're talking about the GIS industry, which is where I built my base and spent a lot of my career. So we've got these kind of two industries that have sat separately. They both sort of live in this tech experts world. But for a commercial, most of the geospatial companies I've worked with and for are service companies. Primarily, particularly on the GIS side, a lot of them are Esri partners, so they'll sit on top of Esri and they'll do all the work with the Esri platform and other platforms as well, but they're mostly services. So we've really got this world where, and if we look at the remote sensing world, it's a data world. So a lot of times you'll see the big remote sensing companies really selling data products. What does that mean? As an example, they'll fly, again, a world that I worked in, historically, they'll fly over transmission lines and collect LiDAR and other data types using fixed wing planes or helicopters. And then they'll have a team of experts and AI that processes that data and produces a product. What might that look like? Well, in veg management, that's a colored point cloud. That's where we show where those trees are too close to the power line, maybe those trees that could fall on the power line. Very useful, but it's a data product. So we've got these kind of two worlds, the GIS world, which has primarily been a 2D map making world, which relies on software and platforms, and then the data feeds that come in from remote sensing. So the trend that I've been watching over the last couple of years, again, the Geospatial 2.0 trend, is that we're beginning to see mergers of these companies. So GIS and remote sensing are coming together. 𝐂𝐸𝐴𝐸𝐴 and NV5 is the most recent great example of that, where you brought a platinum Esri partner together with a company which is one of the bigger US-based remote sensing companies. So you're bringing that together. What does that mean? It's almost like the car analogy. You're bringing the gas and the car together. So what can you now do with that stuff? That's the key question. And I think that's where the industry is needing to move forward quickly on the commercial side. Again, I'll try and break this down in some of my future conversations. I'll break this down a little bit more. But again, historically, and again, I'll look much more at the GIS side since that's where I've spent more of my career, but mostly been sales led. A lot of the GIS companies that I work with and for have less marketing a smaller part of the whole, very much sales led. Increasingly, those guys have realized the importance of marketing. And another trend within that world is the greater interest in building products. There's a realization that from a revenue perspective, products are really good revenue producers. So we're seeing this sort of hybrid place where more of these companies are becoming continuing their service model, but also beginning to bring in the product piece to that mix. The problem I've observed with this is that lack of connection between sales, marketing, and product. And I think I've argued multiple times within organizations I've worked with, and I now play that role actually in my world, is the person that sits in the middle between product, sales, and marketing, the glue. And we know that the boundaries between sales, marketing, and products are coming down. So as we start to look at new opportunities where we bring this new data together with these platforms, these GIS platforms, where you can visualize and ask questions of that data, we need to now update and upgrade how we approach the commercial side of this stuff. So it's no longer about throwing things over the fence from product to sales to marketing to tell the story. We have to bring these guys all together into the same room. So whether that be in terms of product development, again, I've seen too often technologists who drive the products forward, and more often than not, well, not more often than not, but quite often you'll see a failure of products. They never get past MVP. They really don't get traction in the market. Why? Because there wasn't a commercial aspect that helped build and develop that product. So that's the connection between product and sales. And no, a product manager doesn't do that job. Too often poor product managers are given the role of everything, the go-to-market piece, the evolution and development of the product. That's not their job. It's a connection between the go-to-market team, sales and marketing, and the product team. So that's one of the challenges. I work in this particular area, product market fit and product development. And work on, but giving it from a commercial angle. I'll talk a little more about that, and actually how AI can help us in that process. From a sales and marketing perspective, we've got quite robust sales team within the geospatial world, but they're sales led. Again, so some of the techniques that they use are limited to sort of that outreach type approach. When you bring marketing into that mix and you bring those guys together, it's really that story that those guys can both tell collectively. So without a connection between sales and marketing, you've got a problem. Bringing those groups together, telling the same story, generating content, which is taking customers through the sales funnel. Again, from my experiences, it's still a missing piece, and it needs to be solve that particular one, because you're much more powerful if you're together than if you're separate pieces. Again, I've seen too often it's separate pieces. So I've mentioned AI in this. Certainly from generating a product perspective, AI and machine learning offers new ways for us to automate processes. There's a whole world of product development there powered by machine learning. We'll touch on that. On the sales and marketing side, generative AI is the key piece there, and I've done videos, and I'll do more videos on the use of generative AI to help build out the go-to-market strategy and the execution of go-to-market. That is building content for different parts of the sales funnel, etc., etc. So on the generative AI side, we're not replacing people. We're giving people new tools to use to do their job better. And those organizations that are adopting generative AI are beginning to win the game, I will say that. And on the geospatial side, I think we're still in catch-up mode. So that's kind of my focus really historically has been sort of talking geospatial 2.0 and sort of trends in the market, such as the things I'm sort of pointing out here in this talk. The bringing together of GIS and remote sensing is really an expression of what geospatial 2.0 we spoke about 2 or 3 years ago. This is the actual realization of geospatial 2.0, but we're at a very early stage of that. So I'll be talking a lot more in my talks and this content I share on this whole new world of geospatial 2.0 on the commercial side of things. And I'm going to show you some of the techniques that I use with customers I work with, and some of the things that we do to within our sort of Gen AI marketers world to help us grow. So there's the path forward. Happy Friday to you. Happy long weekend to those in the US. and I will do more of these next week. Enjoy your long weekend.